It's your girl, Griffith Sims, and you're watching God, Sex, and Love. And tonight I am talking to Angela, the Christian sexpert. So if you're ready to learn more about her, then stay tuned.
You see what I'm about. Not hard to figure out that I'm not the type of girl that goes around and fools around. Think I'm so done with that crazy part of my past. So don't get so old to ask, 'cause I won't go there. So be aware,
Welcome back to
yeah.
God, Sex, and Love. I am here with the lovely Miss Angela, the Christian sexpert. Hey, how you doing?
Hi,
Oh, I
thank
was
you
just
for
telling.
having me.
Yes, I had to have you, ma'am. I had to have. It seems like we're on the same page, and so I was like, yes. When I came across your information from our friends over there, Romantic Blessings. So hey, Romantic
I
Blessings.
love them.
Yes, they are awesome. They are awesome, man.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I came across you, and I was like, yes, makes sense. Got to invite her to the show. So thank you so much for taking out the time to visit us tonight, and
Yes.
I'm excited.
I am so excited. So
I
excited.
am excited. Look, I usually lately I've been thanking all the guests for like not being scared to come on here because what I found, and I'm sure you probably know as well, but like I've found since I've been doing this, like at first I didn't really think about the name at all. Like, cause for me, I knew that it goes way back for me in regards to,
Mhm.
God, sex and love is because for me, it's just was these was the things that I thought about all the time. The only thing that's not on this list when I first presented this idea, I was telling people I was like, it's God, sex, and my career. Because these are things I think about all the time, and I'm trying to figure out how to manage it as a single Christian woman. That's what I was going through, and that's what I kind of started on YouTube talking about and whatnot. But then when it transitioned to the concept of God, sex, and love, because to me it just kind of flows, whatever. Um, but it's just very interesting because like when I kicked it off, I didn't think anything about it. I already knew in my mind for years that I was going to call it God, Sex, and Love, and because of what I just told you. And I don't think I thought about it until, well, one, until my niece said the name. She's like, I want to say she was like 8 at the time. And she's like, she sent me a video or something. She's like, congratulations on your show, God, Sex, and Love. And I was like, oh, it is kind of weird, I guess, when a kid said it. When a kid says it. Yeah, I guess it's kind of weird. And then like months later, I was on someone else's show, and the name of her program is the Worldly Church Girl, and she said that she had issues. People had issues with her name, and so she was asking, did people have issues with my show? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But then, like months after that, I started to notice little stuff here and there in regards to people's responses, and like I would invite people to the show, and they'd be like, "Oh, this isn't a good fit for me," and yeah, and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, I guess it is a thing. So with you being the Christian sexpert and everything like that, I mean, first we got to dig into who you are and your whole thing. But I just felt like the invitation had to happen. Like, in my
Yes.
point of view, I just was like, I have to extend the invitation. So please inform the audience of who you are, where you're from, and your platform as the Christian sexpert.
Yes. So as I say in my videos, hi, I'm Angela, the Christian sexpert. So the Christian sexpert was born out of another ministry. So I have a platform. My primary platform is TikTok. Right now I'm coming up on 100,000 followers. Hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be at 100,000. And so that's my primary platform right now. And so I get asked a lot in my lives, like, how did you start doing this? So what I am a Christian sex and marriage coach. So if people are experiencing issues with intimacy or sexuality in their marriage, we can chat, we can work it out, I can help guide them. I deal with a lot of purity culture trauma. I deal with a lot of addiction trauma where, there's an addict spouse, and how do we work through that? A lot of what I'm finding is there are no spaces for Christians to discuss sexuality. And the church just tells people, don't have sex until you get married. And then when you get married, everything will be fine. Guess what? It's not fine. I am friends with another TikTok creator who is a newlywed, and she got married and they were okay for a few months. And then she started experiencing secondary vaginismus. So even, married, had great stuff going on. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's problems in the bedroom. So I'm getting off track. The point is, so I graduated a long time ago with my degree in religion and psychology. I was, at the time, a lot of people just didn't go to school to become sex educators or sex therapists when I graduated, because only dirty hippies did that. In the area that I grew, in the area, small town, Ohio, good girls just didn't do that. Good girls went to college, got their degree, and then immediately got married. So I went to college, I got my degree, and got married 6 weeks later. But I was always interested. We were always having open discussions with our friends about this, which I didn't realize was unusual, but apparently it is. And so I continued to study independently. And after I had my son, I joined an online ministry. And the ministry has a very sex positive approach to, as Christian women, we need to be talking about these things because we need to learn. And so after I joined the ministry, I started getting tagged in all of the sex threads all the time. And one of my friends said, tagged me to a thread one time and said, "Paging Angela, the Christian sexpert." And so she gave me my name. And then last fall, I was talking, a few years into my joining the ministry, I was asked to be a part of the leadership team. So last fall, I was talking to the leadership team and I was like, when my son grows up and doesn't need me quite so much anymore, I think I want to do this full time. I think I want to do sex therapy or something like that full time. And then God laughed. So in January, we were chatting, the ministry team was chatting, and there was a sex thread, and one of the leaders was like, "Angela, that should be your TikTok handle, the Christian sexpert." I'm like, haha, yeah. And so I joined TikTok, and then they were like, if you have a new TikTok account, you have to post 4 videos a day, right? And I'm like, what? That's a lot. And I did it. It was totally just on a whim, but I did it. And people are so hungry for information about Christian sex. I went viral. I have 2 videos that, one video is at 5 million views. Another is at 2.5 million views. I don't recommend going viral. Side note to any TikTok creators out there, it's terrifying and awful, because all the crazies come out of the woodwork. But then I started my Patreon, and my Patreon has all of the things that I can't teach about on TikTok because I will be deplatformed. So there is no space in the world that I have been able to find where you can go to a sister in Christ and say, "How do I do anal?" Exactly. Give me specific details. How do I perform anal sex with my husband? Or I want to surprise my husband for his birthday and give him the blowjob of his life. How do I give this man the best blowjob he has ever experienced? And with intimate, scientific, factual, scripture-backed anything. You can't walk into, a lot of Christian couples are afraid to walk into a sex store and make a purchase because, first of all, they might encounter nudity that they don't want to see. Second of all, half of those things are terrifying. If you've never seen a harness before, it's terrifying. And third, okay, now I've got this harness. What the heck do I do with this? How do I use it? And I can't ask anyone. So my Patreon has created a space to answer all of those questions in a nudity-free environment.
Nice.
So there's my really long introduction.
No, thank you. Thank you for that, wealth of information and whatnot. Like I said, I'm loving what you do because for me, again, when I was single and Christian and again trying to figure things out and I was looking for content, I kind of felt similar to what you're saying. I felt like, well, one, I feel like when I found Christian people talking online, for example, they're talking about different things, they would only go so far with the conversation. And then I
Yes.
couldn't relate. I'm like, okay, well, is anybody going through what I'm going through? Because I'm over here, I'm horny, and I'm trying to figure out like what to do, like and what not. Because I know what not to do. I know what we're not supposed to do, but at the same time, it's like, what can I do? And not trying to find loopholes, but I'm just trying to find help. Like, am I the only one? And so that's what kind of kicked me off and kicked everything off. And so to create, I guess, this platform to come in. And the thing is, it's like I know that I have been very blunt and say, hey, God, sex, and love, and we're gonna talk about this stuff and stuff like that. But we talk about everything, honestly. And I talk to so many entrepreneurs and authors and people that we just talk in general. It's just conversation. But but there are times, for example, where I'm doing a Bible study and I'm looking up things about sex, or I'm looking up things about whatever, you know what I'm saying? And sharing that. And then there have been conversations like with you. I've had a few quote unquote sexperts, but you're the only one that is thus far, I want to say, out of the sexperts that I've talked to that is saying I am a Christian sexpert. And that's why I said I have to invite you because the other sexperts, I don't think they may or may not be believers. Or they have some alternative beliefs and whatnot. And so I believe what you're doing is very important. I see the value in it. And I mean, obviously, you're seeing fruits from it, even though the going viral thing is, I'm sure, its own beast or whatever the case is. It's like this blessing and curse of social media, right? Like on one hand, you can
It
reach so many
is.
people, but then on the other hand, you reach so many people, like. So I mean, I haven't gone viral yet. I don't know. I've dealt with people that have gone viral, but I haven't necessarily gone viral or anything. But my whole thing was like, you know what? Regardless of how many people are watching the show or how many people are listening or whatever the case is, as long as it's out here and available for people to not feel like how I felt, because I felt like there wasn't really much out there when I was trying to figure things out. And like I said, the conversations would either only go so far, or my other issue was that I felt like the Christian voice was being suppressed. Like I would see group conversations and they would have like somebody that was saying, they're like, and this is the Christian representation. But then I would notice like in the conversation that other people would dominate the conversation so much where you could tell that person wasn't able to be like to fully express themselves about whatever the topic was and stuff. So for me, I think when I was like, okay, I'm going to be, specific and say that this is a Christian platform. Yes, everybody's welcome to come, even if you don't believe, whatever, and I'll talk to you. As long as we're respectful about everything, that's fine. But, at the same time, a lot of the things I am going to talk about is going to be a reference to the Bible, and it is going to probably be one of these topics or whatever, and so I feel like it's a beautiful thing. I was talking to a lady earlier today because I feel like it's a beautiful thing about like how God puts different people in different positions, and we're available and we're here for whoever we're, our circle of influence and whatnot. And so again, I commend you. I appreciate you for doing what you're doing. And thank you for sharing that testimony and where you've come from so far. And so I would love to hear more about like the experience. And I mean, tell me about the whole going viral thing and whatever else you feel led to share it with us
So
today.
what you just mentioned about, the Christian voice being suppressed and all of that, I have so many people who are following me who comment, I am no longer a Christian because of purity trauma. And I have found so much healing in watching your content. My very first Patreon supporter slash coaching client was a Jewish woman, because there is a similar problem in their community is they cannot find any content that deals with sexuality in a faith-based way. And she had specific questions about very specific acts and how to do these acts safely. And she's like, I have literally no one that I can ask. And she was my first, like, to have a Jewish woman as my first Patreon subscriber was so humbling and such a blessing, because it tells me that God's is literally using a message about healthy sexuality to make his glory known. And creating this space where we can have conversations about safety and specifics and all of these things is so important. And there's a vast difference between what I can teach on TikTok and what I can't, because I pretty much get slapped with a community standards violation weekly on TikTok because I make Christians angry. Christians are afraid of freedom in their sexuality. Freedom in sexuality for a Christian doesn't mean that we look like the world, but it does mean that we don't have to live by purity standards from purity culture, and we don't have to create these extra biblical rules that we have to live by. I get Christians that tell me, you're not a real Christian because real Christians don't use toys, or you're not a real Christian because oral sex isn't biblical. Okay, what Bible are you reading? Because my Bible has the Song of Solomon with direct references to oral sex. So I have questions, first of all. A lot of them. But so that has been part of the struggle in going viral on TikTok, is getting attacked and having my platform attacked by other Christians because they don't like the message that you can find freedom in your bedroom. It's crazy.
So many things, because like, now I haven't had direct attacks with people, coming for me or nothing like that. But I've had like some little random comments every now and then, or little random like things that allude to exactly what you're talking about. And so one, I would like to say that I mean, it's terrible when you're out here for our community, trying to be a voice and be a voice for Christ and for subjects that need to be talked about from the Christian perspective, because at the end of the day, the world is going to take this conversation of sex and everything and pervert it and make it what it is, what we can see all around us every day, right? But then, but if we're not over here talking about it as Christians, to talk about even the fact of like incorporating God in every aspect of your life, including sex, because he made it, then it's like, to me, I mean, I feel like that's what GSL has become at this point. Like, yeah, okay, I know the name was like this thing where, because again, it was things that I thought about all the time, and my struggle as a single woman and all that stuff. But the more I talk to more people, and the more that I've been doing this and whatnot, I see that for me, I feel like it's more of a way to, like, again, it's incorporating God. It's showing ways to incorporate God in every aspect of our life. Like I have like the segment where I'm, I fell off on it, ain't gonna lie, but I'm working out and stuff like that, and working with this coach that incorporates, faith and working out, and even, like food and faith, and sex and faith, and like all these different things, because I believe that God wants to be involved in every aspect of your life. And with us keeping him out of these conversations, it's like we can see what the results are all around it. Like, I don't even have to name stuff. Like, you can turn on your TV, you can hear it in schools, you can see all kinds of things where they're not incorporating God into the conversation at all. And that is the main voice that is speaking for what sex is supposed to be, and all this stuff. So again, I appreciate you, even though I know that, yeah, our own community will come for us, right? But it's like, but we still have to be that voice for the other people, because some people will get it and some people won't, and so that's why I go above and beyond to thank the ones who come and thank the ones that don't run, and all those different things, because yeah, I could go on and on. And like when it gets to like sharing of like some of the little things that people have said, um, or whatever. But I feel like there's a purpose for like what you're doing, what I'm doing, and anybody else that is actually taking a stand when it comes to being a believer and dealing with this conversation and stuff, because it's needed. It's so needed. I mean, you already said that the reason you're going viral right now, because people are hungry for the information, and so tell us more. Tell us more. I'm just gonna listen now.
Okay. So, the reason that I keep going viral, is the most popular content on my platform is what I call bedroom games. So these are ways to, it's just games to play with your spouse. So things like, oh gosh. Oh, like I did a video on like playing Naked Twister. Like everybody should play Naked Twister at some point in their life. Or things like oh, one of my recent ones, I said hide and seek, but make it sexy. So you take any toys that you might own and you hide them around the house. And then your spouse has to go and locate the toys. Side note, make a note of how many toys you find to make sure they all get collected at the end of the game. But so hide however many toys, and then your spouse has to go find the toys. And when your spouse finds the toys, they get to decide how the toy is going to be used. So and with my games, opens up opportunities for things like talking about how consent is still imperative in marriage, that just because you're married doesn't mean that you have carte blanche consent for all of the things. And so then I get to teach people about hard and soft limits. I have a product that I'm getting ready to drop hopefully in the next few weeks. But one of the things that I'm finding is people are looking for ways to make their marriage more interesting. They want to break out of their purity culture shells and do some spicier activities, but they want to find ideas that they're comfortable with, and they don't know what they don't know. So they don't know how to Google something. And frankly, Google's terrifying when you're Googling any sort of sexual activity. And so there are lists out there that is like a list of sexual activities, and basically you and your partner rate the activity like, oh, that sounds interesting, I would like to try it. Or no, that would be a hard limit, I'm never going to do that in my life, type of thing. But the thing is, so when I was doing research for this, there is not a single list in existence that I could find, and I dug way deeper than the sexpert was uncomfortable at a couple times. The internet is a scary place. But there's no list that exists that include definitions for all of these acts. So you have this list, and it says something like snowballing, and you're supposed to rate how you feel about it. But if you don't know what snowballing is, how are you supposed to rate it? And I don't want to go Google that, because God only knows what that's going to pull up. So the product I'm getting ready to drop is going to be a list along with definitions for you and your partner to work together to come up with activities. Also included will be, so if any of the activities include any sort of accessories, I will have an addendum with links to accessories that you can, without even having to go research which would be the best one, here's a handy dandy reference sheet you can just purchase right off of there. And I also will have included on the list if there's any Patreon videos available detailing how to perform said activity safely on my Patreon content. So that will be dropping, I'm hoping by the end of August. 2022 is the year we're in, right? Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know this podcast is going to live forever. So I'm hoping by the end of August that will be ready to go. I am working on making sure that everything is perfect and pretty and all of the products are available the way that I want them to be. And yeah, that's with talked about consent. So with talking about sex also leads into talking about marriages, because the health of our marriage affects our sex life in huge ways.
Yes.
So I talk about more than just, how to have fun with your spouse. I talk about how to have a healthy marriage. One of my favorite things to talk about is having a healthy balance of the mental load in your household, because people are just now starting to comprehend how an imbalanced mental load can affect a woman's desire. All the things we talk about.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, first, again, congratulations on all of those endeavors. They sound great. Sound well needed. I get it when it comes, like you said, when it comes to trying to research things on your own. It's like they say, the rabbit hole or whatever. So I mean, yeah, putting things in a compact way, I believe that would be successful, as well as everything else that you've already shared is. And so yeah, man, congratulations on that. And hey, people, check out those the content, the things that are being created, the resources that are being
Yes.
created for you all, because it sounds very good to have that. And it's just so many things. It's like I'm like,
Right.
this has just been just such an amazing experience doing this show, because like I feel like every time I talk to somebody, each and every one of you all are just, it just blows my mind each time, the things that God is doing through us, and so this is exciting. It's exciting to say the least. But all right, so if we touch on some of the things you were saying, right? You were talking about like well, one phrase that I've noticed that you mentioned a lot this evening, I don't know if you want to get into it or not, is the phrase purity culture.
Mhm.
If you want to at least define that for people, just in case they're not familiar, and then if you have anything you want to say about that,
Yeah.
share with us about that if you don't mind.
Oh gosh, purity culture could be a 6 series podcast series all on its own. Right?
We have to come
Um,
back then to get the
yes.
deep dive, but just a little toe in there.
Yes. Yeah. And I do get asked that a lot, because there are a lot of people who maybe didn't grow up in church who just don't know what purity culture is. And then people get really angry with me because they're like, are you saying that we shouldn't be pure? And no, that's not. No, we need to live pure before God. Purity culture is a specific set of teachings that the church used to control the sexuality of people in the kind of 70s to late 90s, early aughts. And when I say the church, this is another thing people on TikTok get really mad at me for. They're like, what kind of church do you go to? When I say the church, I mean the universal modern American Christian evangelical experience, not little C church, big C church. So marriage books, things like I Kiss Dating Goodbye. Those types of things are what I reference when I'm saying the church. So things like telling girls, you can't wear a tank top because you will cause grown men to stumble. Excuse me, in what universe is it okay to tell a 14-year-old girl that she's going to condemn a 45-year-old man to hell because her body is too sexy for him to control himself, when she shows her shoulders. Say that one 3 times fast. Um, that that's not, no, no. The Bible tells us to use self-control. 14-year-old girls are never responsible for a grown man's lust, but the church has intertwined the do not cause your brother to stumble verse so closely with any modesty verses that people don't know how to separate them when they are in actuality 2 separate conversations. And that is one of the long-term effects of purity culture. So we get this whole I kiss dating goodbye, that whole phenomenon that was happening. You can get into things like purity balls. That's a whole thing. Teenagers as young as 12 years old were taken to their church and they would go through these classes. The girls would do something like in their class, they would all be handed a piece of gum and they would be told to chew this gum. And then they would say, okay, now spit it out into your hand. When you have sex before marriage, you are like this chewed up piece of gum. It can never go back to the way it was because it is now broken and used. And this is what you are giving your future spouse when you have sex before marriage. Gross. So now they've endured 4 to 8 weeks of classes with these types of messages, making them ashamed of their body, making them convinced that they are causing men to damn themselves to hell, telling them that if they make a mistake, they're worthless and no man is ever going to want them. And now they come to the purity ball. All the little girls are dressed in white dresses, like brides, and all the boys are dressed in suits. And there's usually some kind of church service about everybody's promising not to have sex before they get married. And then their parents are called to the altar where the girls promise to their fathers that they will not have sex before marriage. And then the father puts a ring on her wedding ring finger, a purity ring. I don't know why people thought this was a good idea, but it's all creepy. So creepy. And not everybody had that experience. You know, I talked about that recently on my TikTok and I had a lot of comments like, I had a purity ring, but I didn't do that. That's weird. But those were definitely a thing that was happening at the height of purity culture. And then you've got the boys were separated for their purity culture lessons, and they were told, just don't think about it. If you see a girl who's wearing a bikini, bounce your eyes. Don't look at her. So that if you don't look at her, you can't lust. So now we're treating women like objects. We're just not looking at them as if they don't exist. Instead of teaching the boys that a girl wearing a swimsuit is a precious, loved child of God, we're told don't look at her. Don't think about it. And when you get married, your wife is going to be ready to solve all of your problems. You won't have to worry about lust after you get married because you will have your wife there ready to spread her legs whenever you want it. But now you've damaged the wives so badly that they're absolutely terrified to spread their legs. And so now we have an entire generation of marriages that are failing because nobody knows how to experience authentic intimacy. Nobody knows how to deal with lust. Lust does not get cured after you get married. And you've got women thinking that they're responsible for their husband's lust. So that's purity culture, kind of.
Well, it definitely feels like there's definitely more. You got to come back, I guess. We got to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because I mean, I don't think, for me personally, I don't think I've dealt with any of those things. But I mean, I can see how, I mean, I think I've heard a little bit about some of those things or like a piece of this or that, you know? So, obviously, yeah, that's a deep one, you know, but I liked that, this can kind of transition us to this next conversation or next
Yeah.
part of this, where you can kind of you can just give us a little toe, or you don't have to give us the whole thing. You can come back, like I said, because I don't know if we might have to make you a whole segment. Like I don't know, we gotta collaborate. Um, but um, but I want to hear, like, what do you think about the narratives regarding marriage? Because you kind of already touched on it
Mhm.
and stuff. And there are issues, right, with sex and marriage and everything like that. Whether people are coming from the situation that you just shared, or
Mhm.
coming from the complete opposite, and then maybe when they do come to Christ or something like that, and then it's like, oh, what about all the stuff I used to do? And just so many different things that can be said about sex and marriages. And one of the I say it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't think it's at the pet peeve level, but it is one of those things where I'm trying to, if I can combat it, or if I can do anything to kind of get married folks on the, like, hey, I'm on team more married sex. I've been saying that since starting this whole platform, because there's this narrative out there that, like, once people get married, sex declines. That people, yeah, and I just and you hear that so many different
Mhm.
like Christian couples, or couples that you're married now, which is supposed to be the time where you're doing the do getting things, however
Mhm.
you want to call it. This is the time that you're supposed to be having sex according to the Bible, is when you're married. But the complete opposite is the narrative that's pushed. Like the narrative that is out here about marriage and sex is that married couples don't do it, and X, Y, and Z. And so, and these are things that people use to say, like, that's why I'm going to do what I want to do outside of marriage, and celebrate that. And then when couples are getting married, it's like this struggle and stuff. And I know there's a lot involved in that. Like, I know that, enemy is playing its part in that as well. But, like, as the Christian expert and whatnot, because I'm pretty sure you deal with couples and people and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So, like, I guess, like, what could you share with us tonight about, like, that part of things, um and I guess, like, what you do to encourage people in that area.
So that's a really complicated question because
I know.
it, people, as humans, our desire is to look for the fastest way to solve a problem, right?
Mm,
And the problem with that, you know, not having the frequency that one would desire after marriage is there is no simple answer.
mm,
It can be, there's a million reasons. So one of the biggest reasons that I am seeing right now is a conversation that's happening a lot, especially on TikTok, is marital coercion, where Christian men are weaponizing the Bible against their spouse. And they're saying things like, the Bible says you can't deprive me. They're saying things like, you have to submit to me, so you have to have sex with me when I want it. And we know that obligation kills desire. So if a wife is feeling pressured from her husband to engage in intimacy, her desire for that intimacy is going to zero out. Um, so when the Bible is weaponized against wives, you're going to see a decrease because it kills her desire. Women, so studies are actually showing that women tend to have a higher interest in sex than men, but women are not allowed to express that desire. And there's so many ways that desire in a woman is killed that it is perceived that women have the lower desire. And so, and then, I mean, you also have more mundane reasons, things like, you have to work and you've got 3 kids and, you're just exhausted by the end of the night, or things like, modern America is obsessed with this idea of women bouncing back after they have a baby. I don't know what bouncing you did, but I didn't. I fell flat on my face and laid there for about 2 months.
mm,
That there was no bouncing.
mm,
Um, and modern America does not honor the postpartum period of a new mother. And doctors are telling, women, well, you can have sex at 6 weeks postpartum. And there's, men at that 6 week mark are like, okay, let's go. And she's like, I'm still torn up. My nipples are bleeding because this baby is literally chewing on me. And you want to touch me in both of those areas? Like, that sounds like it hurts.
Mhm.
And then there's things like there's so many pharmaceuticals that kill desire in either partner. Hormone imbalances because the modern American diet is trash. There's other trauma, unrelated to like purity culture. It could be childhood trauma or, things like that. So when we talk about, this narrative that sex doesn't happen after you get married, when you are dating, you don't live with someone 24/7 for 10 years, and you don't have the opportunity for the desire to ebb and flow because it's just a different phase of life. But when you've been with someone for 10 years, the seasons are going to ebb and flow, and there's going to be times of more and there's going to be times of less. And if you're in a time of less, you need to figure out if there's a reason why you're in a time of less and then address that reason.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I guess one more thing we can touch on before, because I know you probably got to go and stuff like that. So I know there's so many more things to talk about when it comes to this conversation. So again, if
Yes.
you don't mind, I would love for us
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
talk and figure out how we can collaborate or something, because we need you. You know what I'm saying? you know, we can get, if I can do whatever I can to kind of help our community, that the people that listen
Yes.
to this platform and stuff, because these are the conversations I want to have here anyway. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I want to
Yeah.
have all kinds of conversations, all conversations, but I definitely want to have these conversations. So you're definitely welcome
Yes.
back. I'm already
Yeah.
saying that. I know we need it when we end, but you're welcome back anytime. Um,
I think I've dropped at least 30 episodes in
uh,
episode top, no, like episode topics in like
yeah,
this conversation, like purity
exactly.
culture and coercion and postpartum and
Mhm, mhm, exactly. So I mean, I know there's so much to talk about, and so yeah, definitely please come back. Please come back. Um, but I think I've been very transparent here on on GSL about me and like things I was going through in life and different things like that. And people can hear my whole testimony, y'all. Y'all know you listen to the Jews, listen to all this stuff to hear my whole testimony. I would bore you with all those details in a moment, unless we can talk about it later. I don't know, but basically, I would just say like the other thing is that you were kind of touching on this as well about women in our drive and the narrative that that it's the man that wants it more and versus
Mhm.
and vice versa, whatnot, or instead of vice versa, what I meant to say. And it seems, for example, and I've shared this before, so I'm not saying that hey hubby, not trying to call you out. I'm just saying that it seems that, like, for example, in our situation, that I'm the one with the high drive. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then finding ways to figure that out, and exercise my patience, right, and my self-control and my thing, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And so I know you kind of already kind of touched on like this thing about women and sex and maybe our desires and all that different type of stuff, but like, is there anything to say to other women that's out here like me, you know what I'm saying, like whether they're single or not, and whether they're married, like just maybe like one bit of advice for both parties,
Yeah, so the the woman having the higher desire is actually not um as uncommon as people like to think that it is. It's actually pretty common. Um and my desire for, and this again, there's so much you can get into. I guess let's talk about pursuer avoider dynamics when we are talking about the higher drive and the lower drive. Side note, the high drive, low drive is like sex drive isn't really even a thing. Like that's also a whole other episode, but come back for that, I guess. But let's talk about pursuer avoider. So when we have a mismatch in desire levels, we then enter a pursuer avoider dynamic. So the pursuer is like, oh, it's been a while. I'm wondering if I do this, if they're gonna be receptive and I'm gonna do the thing. And then the other partner is like, why are they being weird? What's going on? Oh, now they want something from me, and then just feels like so much to do. And it's like one more thing on my plate, and I don't have the energy. And now the pursuer is like, they're not receptive to my advances. Do it more. And so now you're just creating this cycle of, I'm going to pursue you and you're being weird and I don't like it. So I'm going to avoid. So I'm going to pursue harder. And you really need to figure out how you can break out of that cycle. And the best way to do that is open, honest communication. Hey, do you want to have sex tonight? I don't think I really want to tonight. Can we try in the next few days? And it's just, instead of doing all of the things like, hey, do you want a massage? Hey, I'm gonna come and like be sexy in front of you or something, like instead of trying all of those indirect communication methods, just having is this something that is on your radar for the next 24 hours conversation? And if it's not, having a conversation like, hey, I feel like we haven't been intimate as often as we were like last year. Do you feel the same way? Has something happened? How do you feel about our frequency? Is there something that I can be doing to help support you so that we can get to a different frequency? All those are all different ways that we can communicate to make both party happy with what's happening.
And then before you go, I have to let you see if you can share something for it. Like, I don't know if you deal with singles in these conversations or whatnot, but if you do, I would love for if you could share something for the single people. Because again, I was the one that was out here struggling back in the day. I wrote a whole book about it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
and everything like that. And so, if there just happens to be someone single watching this and whatnot, like any type of Christian sexpert advice for that person.
The most common question I get asked for my single followers is, what about masturbation? And forgive me if, so on TikTok likes to censor words and phrases, and I will catch more community standards violations if I use words like masturbation. So I will frequently say fly solo. So if I slip into that, keep up. So the most common question I get asked from single people that follow me is, what about masturbation? So here's the thing. Here's my answer. The Bible does not specifically address masturbation. The Bible does address lust. Can you as an individual engage in the act of masturbation without lusting? I don't know the answer to that question. That is only a question that you and the Holy Spirit can answer. So I don't give, and a lot of people also like to ask, well, how far can I go with my boyfriend?
Try to find them loopholes.
Don't ask me that question.
Uh-oh.
You're asking the wrong question. That's not the question that you need to be asking. The question that you need to be asking is, how does my relationship please the Holy Spirit? How am I glorifying God through this relationship? Is this act that I am performing glorify God? And if so, how? So those are very much related because the answer is the same for both of them. I don't know. For one couple, making out could be a sin. For the next couple, it could be fine. I don't know. That's not my place to give you an answer on that. you need to talk to the Holy Spirit and let him answer you. And the thing is, you have to actually listen when he talks to you. Because I know, especially when I was single, I did a lot of, what's that? I don't think I heard you right. I'm going to go do this and you can just let me know later, like if it was wrong.
Yeah.
So you have to have those conversations with the Holy Spirit and your partner. And if you feel like you guys are getting two different answers, one of you is wrong and you need to keep praying and not doing anything until you get on the same page.
Well, there you have it, folks. Look, we had a little time with the Christian sexpert tonight, man, and I've enjoyed it. And like I said, I know we just got to end at some point. That's the only reason I'm going to wrap up, because I'm like, we be on here all night talking about
Right?
look, part 3, part 4, part 5, one night, right? So I know we got to end at some point, but tell us where we can find you and your different products and things like that, and any social media, whatever you'd like to share at this point.
Yes.
If there's anything else you want to share, feel free.
Yes. So my primary platform is TikTok. And if you get on TikTok, you go to the link in my bio, you can find my link tree from my TikTok profile. I am also on Instagram and Facebook. You can find my link tree, which is in my profile in all 3 of my platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. You can join me on Patreon for $5 a month. I drop 2 videos every single week teaching on different marital acts. And I'm currently in a series on kink in marriage and covering specific kinks. Each video covers its own act or kink or whatever you want to call it. I'm moving into a series on role play where we will be covering different role play scenarios. I take requests on my Patreon. So if you have a toy that you want to know how to use, if there's an act that you don't know how to do it safely, you don't know how to do it at all, I do take requests for Patreon videos. And on my Linktree, there is a contact me button. And so if you are interested in private coaching with me, the Christian sexpert, you can message me through that contact me, and I can work with you. And, I work with a lot of wives on their own, and I work with a lot of couples as well, with both parties. And we can address anything intimacy related that you have questions about. So get to my link tree through any of my socials and connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Miss Angela. Again, you're welcome back anytime. Let's be on the lookout. I'm gonna speak in faith and say, be on the lookout, man. Some collaborations coming, man, because we gotta keep this content coming for the people, because I know, like I said, for me, it was so needed back in the day, and I know it's definitely needed now. So thank you for everything
For
you
sure.
do, pushing, and thank you again for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Shot you, Miracle Sims, let's go.
Thank you so much for watching God, Sex, and Love. And thank you to Miss Angela, the Christian sexpert, for joining us tonight. Be on the lookout for more content, y'all, because I feel like we have to collaborate. So, yes, y'all be praying for me about that, and sending us some ideas and all that, man, because, yeah, we got to get some more chats with Miss Angela. But, yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you all enjoyed the show tonight. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Good night.
Looking so good. That's right.